Take a look at these three numbers. They all came from the same morning, the same night of sleep. One of them told me I was doing great and I should treat myself to something fun today, while another one told me this is my lowest recovery score in 30 days and I should take it easy. And the third one landed somewhere in the middle. So, which one is actually right? And more importantly, which one should you trust with your money? Today, we're going to be putting the Whoop 5.0 head to head against the brand new Fitbit Air to find out. If it's supposed to make your life better, then I put it to the test. I'm Susie, and I've been deep diving into wearables for years, tracking everything from my sleep and fitness, and even my own biomarker testing with Function Health and Superpower. Whoop has been a part of that routine for a while, but Fitbit Air just launched as Google's answer to Whoop. So it's a screenless tracker at a fraction of the price. So I bought both and I wore them side by side for 30 days and compared everything from comfort to price to the actual data that they give you. And these are my insights about which tracker might be best for you. And I'll be honest, partway through this test, one of these AI coaches told me something about my own life that just wasn't true. I'll show you exactly what happened later on in this video. Also, I bought all of these wearables myself, so there's no sponsorship on this video. Now, before we get into the comparison, here's what these are in case you're unfamiliar. Both the Whoop 5.0 and the Fitbit Air are wearable health trackers that you wear on your wrist. But unlike a smartwatch, neither of these have a screen. So there's no display and no notifications popping up. Now, the whole appeal of this category is that the device just disappears. You're not checking a watch face all day, you're just wearing a small sensor and opening the app whenever you want to know how your body is doing. So let's start with how these actually feel on your body, because that's the first thing that you're going to notice. Whoop is noticeably bigger, thicker, and heavier. It weighs in at 28 grams. But Fitbit Air, like its name implies, is pretty tiny. It's 12 grams, so it's less than half the weight of Whoop. And it genuinely lives up to its name. It feels pretty airy when it's on your wrist. The band is also much thinner, it blends in more, and the removable tracker itself is a lot smaller than Whoop's. Now, there is a bit of a learning curve with Whoop when it comes to putting the tracker on and also getting used to its whole ecosystem. The buckle takes some getting used to, and so does attaching the charger the first few times. But with Fitbit Air, it's pretty intuitive in every way. The band is Velcro and adjustable, and the charger is magnetic. I also appreciate how discreet the Fitbit Air is, which matters if you don't want to be broadcasting the fact that you're tracking your health all day. But Whoop does have years-long head start in terms of building out its whole accessory ecosystem and its app. So if you like having a lot more style options, that is currently on Whoop's advantage. But I do expect that Fitbit Air's options will grow pretty quickly. Now, charging is where I think the biggest practical difference is in terms of physical comparisons. With Whoop, you can keep wearing the band while it charges, which means you don't have a gap in your data. With Fitbit Air, you do have to take it off to charge, so you might lose a window of tracking every time, especially if you forget to put it back on, which did happen to me a few times. Now, one more thing on charging. Whoop's base tier does come with a wired charger. But if you pay for a higher tier, you get a wireless charger. So you can charge cable-free, which becomes even more of a bonus because you can keep wearing your Whoop and charge it at the same time and not be tethered to a cable. Right now, there's currently no wireless charging option for Fitbit Air. And since we're on the topic of charging, let's talk about battery life. So Whoop is rated for 14 days on a single charge, while Fitbit Air is rated for up to 7 days. And in my day-to-day experience wearing both, that feels pretty legit. Whoop consistently holds its charge noticeably longer. Now let's talk about what these actually cost, because this is where the story starts to get interesting. Whoop is a subscription model, so depending on the tier you choose, you're looking at maybe $199, $239, or $350 per year. And remember that wireless charger that I mentioned? That's part of what you're paying for at the higher tiers. Meanwhile, Fitbit Air is a one-time purchase of $99 for the device. If you want the AI coaching and deeper insights, Google Health Premium, formerly known as Fitbit Premium, is $10 a month, so about $100 a year. And it does come with a free 3-month trial included when you buy the device. So even at the higher end, Fitbit Air with a full year of premium costs less than Whoop's cheapest tier. That's a massive gap, and it sets up the real question for the rest of this video. Is Whoop's higher cost actually buying you something meaningfully better? And by the way, you do have to buy the subscription with Whoop. If you don't pay for that subscription, then the device is pretty much useless. So next we're going to talk about the recovery and readiness scoring, and this is the segment I've been most excited to share because something happened this morning that perfectly sums up the whole experience of using these devices. So Aura gave me a readiness score of 77, labeled it good, and then told me to relax and treat myself to something fun today. Meanwhile, Whoop told me that my recovery was 35%, the lowest in 30 days, and to take it easy instead of doing a hard workout. And Fitbit Air gave me a readiness score of 56, right in between. So which one is right? Honestly, I don't think any of them are wrong. They're just framing things very differently. Whoop's number is relative to my own baseline. So lowest in 30 days is about my personal trend. It's not a statement that something is broken necessarily. Meanwhile, Aura's good is more of an absolute label. But here's a part that surprised me. All three of these numbers actually live on the same 1 to 100 scale. Fitbit Air says so directly on its readiness screen. So 56 and 77 really are comparable numbers, not two different units. What's different is the label attached to them. Fitbit Air calls a 56 moderate and frames it as a solid foundation for the day. I'd bet Aura would never call a 56 good. These devices aren't speaking different languages, they're just using a very different vocabulary for the same numbers. And this wasn't a one-off. I checked the same three numbers on other mornings, and the pattern held every time. Aura was always the highest, Fitbit Air in the middle, and Whoop was the lowest. Now, on one of these mornings, Aura actually gave me the best score of the whole test, while Whoop's was its second worst, even though all three apps agreed that my sleep last night had been pretty similar. Whoop zeroed in on the fact that I'd slept about an hour less than it calculated that I needed, and that one factor was enough to drag my entire recovery down. Fitbit Air did flag a couple of things too, but it still landed on a moderate score. And here's something I only pieced together later that helps explain why these numbers diverge the way that they do. Whoop tracks your stress levels all day long, and it factors that directly into recovery. This very thing happened this week. I had an elevated stress day that fed straight into a lower recovery score the next morning. Aura also tracks stress, but Fitbit Air and everything that I've seen doesn't surface a stress metric anywhere. Its own readiness score breakdown lists exactly three inputs: heart rate variability, recent sleep, and resting heart rate. So if something is stressing your system that doesn't show up in either of those three categories, Fitbit Air's score simply won't reflect it. But Whoop's will. So here's the lesson I keep coming back to. I don't think any of these devices are wrong, they're just calibrated differently. Whoop tends to run a lot more conservative, and it weighs sleep debt and stress heavily, even when everything else looks normal. Meanwhile, Fitbit Air and Aura seem to be more willing to let one flagged thing slide if the bigger picture looks okay. So if you're someone who pushes through tiredness without noticing, Whoop's more cautious numbers might be the nudge that you need. But if you want a score that won't make you feel like you're falling apart on an otherwise normal day, Fitbit Air and Aura have framing that might suit you better. And if you ever switch from one of these devices to another, don't be surprised if your numbers shift. It doesn't mean that your health has changed overnight. It just means that you're reading a different ruler. Now let's get into the coaching, because this is the segment where my opinion about these two devices shifted the most. Whoop's dashboard throws a lot of data at you. You get strain scores, recovery percentages, heart rate zones down to the minute. But the AI coach is there to help you interpret it, and it does that by comparing today against your own recent trends rather than some generic chart. So after one of those low recovery mornings, Whoop's AI coach suggested a light 20-minute walk to nudge me toward my strain target without spiking fatigue. I also found that it's really proactive. If you open Whoop's chat, it already has something to say about your day, and it asks a relevant follow-up question, so it feels really personalized. Meanwhile, Fitbit Air's Ask Coach is the opposite. If you open it up, you get a blank screen with a generic prompt. It doesn't reference your day until you ask for it. It does have a separate automatic daily recap though, so I compared what that recap said about this morning's workout to what Whoop's coach said about the exact same session. Whoop's coach looked at the workout itself, and it told me it was a longer session with a lower average heart rate and plenty of time in zone 1, the lowest intensity zone, which is a good sign that I was building fitness without forcing every rep. Meanwhile, Fitbit Air's recap gave me a broader morning briefing instead. Gave me my active zone minutes, my sleep, my readiness, my resting heart rate, step count, and it told me to keep the rest of the day light. It's useful, but it never connected any of that back to what the workout itself actually looked like, even though Fitbit has the exact same heart rate zone data that Whoop has. But auto-tracking might be the most important piece of this, because the whole point of having a screenless tracker is that it works in the background without you having to manage it. So Whoop has consistently auto-detected every single one of my workouts correctly. And it also counts real strain from things that aren't workouts, like a heavy day of housework. Aura also does something similar, and I appreciate that because that's genuine physical strain on your body. Fitbit Air, on the other hand, had me constantly double-checking its work. There was one day during this test that made it really clear. I did a HIIT session, I walked around, and I went for a swim that afternoon. And Whoop logged every piece of that separately, each one with its own contribution to my strain for the day. Meanwhile, Fitbit Air's view of that same day didn't break any of it out. The elevated heart rate was there in the data somewhere. It just disappeared into one undifferentiated block of activity. That same automatic recap feature for Fitbit Air is also where I ran into something else worth flagging. And this one actually got worse the longer the test went on. On a normal day at home, nothing unusual going on. Fitbit Air told me that I was still dealing with time zone shifts from travel that had happened days earlier. I corrected it. I told it I wasn't on a different time zone. But still, it came up again a few mornings later, still talking about the recent time zone shift. And then it came back a third time after that, even more specific and just as wrong, telling me that my schedule had shifted nearly 2 hours earlier, and because of that, I had social jet lag to recover from. It's a story the coach keeps adding detail to, even after being directly told multiple times that it's wrong. So after all of that, here's where I landed. I find that Whoop's coach is dense, but it's trend and data driven. It's very proactive, and never once has it contradicted its own data. And it doesn't need me to babysit the tracking. Meanwhile, Fitbit Air's coaching can be genuinely pleasant and sometimes helpful, but you have to do more manual logging, more double checking, and now 3 separate times, I've caught its automatic recap being confidently wrong about something specific. That combination is why Whoop's data and coaching has earned more of my trust over this test, even though it's the one that keeps throwing more numbers at you up front. But on that note, I will say that, Fitbit Air is brand new. Google Health, it just rolled out the new app. I think that this is something that they're still working on. We all know that AI is changing by the day, like rapidly. So I would expect and hope that Google Health / Fitbit is able to iron out these problems in the future. But as of right now, June 2026, I still think it has a ways to go. So that brings up the obvious question. Is Google Health Premium worth the extra monthly cost? So currently it's about $10 a month or $100 a year. And my honest answer is it depends on how much you're going to lean on it versus check it. If you mostly want a friendlier daily summary, and you don't mind occasionally double-checking a number against the charts, it adds real value, especially since those first 3 months come included with the device. But if you're expecting it to replace the kind of trend-aware, proactive coaching that Whoop gives you right out of the box, I don't think it's there yet. But to be fair, it did just launch, and as we all know, these AI coaches and algorithms are developing at a pretty rapid pace. So I do think there's a good chance that the AI coach will develop more in the future, but as of right now, June 2026, I do think that the Whoop coach is better overall. So after 30 days of wearing both the Whoop 5.0 and the new Google Health Fitbit Air, here's where I landed. If you're someone who wants the lightest, most invisible wearable possible, who's okay with doing a little bit of manual logging and double checking in exchange for a friendlier daily recap, and also someone who doesn't want to pay a subscription price that rivals a gym membership, the Fitbit Air is genuinely impressive, especially at this price point. But if you're someone who wants the most granular data possible, and also who values continuous tracking without gaps for charging, also someone who wants flexibility in how and where you wear your device, and also wants an AI coach that's built around your own trends and handles the tracking for you automatically, I think Whoop is still the most powerful tool. You're just paying a lot more for that power. For me personally, it really does come down to data. The more that Whoop showed me, the more I trusted what it told me. Fitbit Air's lighter touch on the data collection and presentation is easier to live with day to day, but there's also less underneath it. And twice now, that's been where things went wrong. So if you want the deep dive on Whoop 5.0 on its own, I've got a dedicated review linked below in the description, as well as a comparison against the wildly popular Fitbit Charge 6 and the Inspire 3. And if you're curious about how my Aura Ring setup fits in too, I have a comparison coming up soon between Whoop, Aura, and my Garmin Venu 4, and I'll be linking that below too when it's ready. Now, go live better.